Hi, and welcome to Medieval Fight Club. Today we're going to discuss one method of mounting one of our metal axe heads onto a wooden haft. The first thing we're going to do is figure out what size wood we need to make our haft length. To determine this, we're going to start with some verniers or calipers, and we're going to measure the inside of our socket. Now you should write that down. I've got a reading of about 22 by 32. So we're going to look for some wood that has those dimensions at a minimum. Now ideally, we want the actual haft below the head to have a slightly thicker profile. So we're going to start with a length that is 32 by 65 by 1.8. However, we're going to be making two axe hafts. You may find a more appropriate piece for your particular axe head. This should always be based on your particular axe head. The first step that we're going to do is we're going to saw on a table saw this width, which we're going to upscale to 27 to give us that extra thickness on the side profile, so that when we come to tapering the haft for the axe head to fit, it doesn't slide down the shaft. To do this, we have a table saw set up, and we're going to run our length through in such an orientation to give us a final profile of 32 by 27. Following that, we're going to use a routing tool, a router, to route the edges and give us a nice rounded off profile that will be more comfortable in our hands. The final stage of this process will involve tapering the very end of the haft to fit the axe head snugly, and then we'll be using a wedge, a wooden wedge, to secure the axe head for use. Okay, so now we're just going to make a slot in the end of our haft for wedging the axe head. To do this, we're going to use a table saw. However, you could do this with a regular saw. This is just quicker. I've set the table saw up to the depth that I want, which is basically as far as the socket will go on the haft. So as deep down as the socket's going to cover. I've set it to cut exactly halfway in the middle of the haft, lengthwise. Okay, so the next stage, we're going to fit the wooden haft onto the socket. To do this, we're going to have to shape the end of one end of the wooden haft to fit the socket of the axe head. Before I start, I recommend actually marking which side's going to be the front of the axe. I'm going to be using a belt sander. However, other tools are also appropriate. For example, a rasp could be used to shape the end. This is by far the most detailed part of the process, so you need to be careful to gradually shape that end to fit very precisely on the axe head. My objective is going to be to get the axe head on approximately as far as the actual socket ends, and then hammer it on until these projections are fully down across the wood. At this stage, I'm checking to see if the axe head is going on straight. Occasionally it might be off to one side or the other. In that case, you need to work out which side needs mass removed. Now I can see that my Dane axe is slanting slightly to the right hand side at the top, which means I need to take out some on the left hand side as I progress. I like to use a pencil just to mark a little bit of material so I know that I've actually removed that bit of material, and I'll concentrate on this side until the axe head is starting to get a lot straighter towards the end. Okay, so once you get the shaft to fit up until the end of the socket, I like to leave a little bit of extra at the bottom so that it's not too tapered, and that we're going to get a nice tight fit even without the wedge. Whilst I've got the sander out, I'm going to quickly make a wedge from the off-cut material from which I cut the two halves from. Now it's going to need to be about 4 centimeters to match my depth of the slot that I cut earlier. However, this varies depending on your axe head and how deep you want it on the haft. Okay, so now I've tapered the piece of wood. I'm going to cut it off, and that will form our wedge for later fixing the socket. Okay, so for the final stage of mounting the axe head, we're just going to hammer in our wedge. You may want to use some glue in this, but pressure should be more than enough to hold it in place. That's up to you. I've actually got a bit of a crack form in the wedge. It can happen with wooden wedges, but it shouldn't be a problem. Alright, so I actually made it slightly longer than I actually needed it, so I think I'm going to have to cut this off. That's fine. The important thing is that the axe head is nice and secure. There's no way it's coming off. And there you go. That's how you mount an axe head, or at least one method of mounting an axe head. You can also use this with other axe heads that we have available. It doesn't need to be a Dane axe. The half length is entirely up to you. I've left this the full length of the wood that I bought, but you may want to cut it off for different degrees of accuracy with Dane axes, or according to the appropriate size of haft for example, for a single-handed axe. Thank you, and if you have any further questions, feel free to contact us via our email or website. This has been Medieval Fight Club, and we'll see you again soon.